Hello, and welcome to Ohio Sports Zone. My name is Ethan Graham. In previous weeks, you've seen us cover Ohio University and Mid-American Conference athletics, but this week, we're about to change the way we do things. This week's episode of Ohio Sports Zone is going to change your life. Call your parents, pet your pets, because things are about to change. This is Ohio Sports Zone. Welcome into Ohio Sports Zone. I am Ethan Graham, joined by the Rabbit Father, Shane Dazen. Shane, where do we even start to begin to talk about this? A massive win for Ohio University, 38-10 over the Toledo Rockets last night. Many thought this was a preview of the Mid-American Conference Championship game in Detroit, and wow, Ohio dominated this game. I know you were hot after this game. Please tell me and all the people out there what the hell happened.
Ethan, I can't even get into this game right now. I'm so hot still. I was so excited last night on the sideline. Mm-hmm. You can't really show it from our vantage point, but I'm telling you right now, obviously you know by our dialogue on the sideline last night, I was juiced about this game. I came in with the idea that Ohio was going to go and dominate.
You did, and I doubted you, and I'm sorry about that.
And everybody doubted me. You, Mitchell Lyons, one of our other anchors who hasn't shown up in a couple weeks. Mitch, we miss you. Wish you can come back.
Sure.
But everybody doubted me, and it was unbelievable because I was like, guys, what are you guys missing here? We've watched them play for the last 6-7 weeks at an incredibly high pace.
Yeah.
This offense is absolutely soaring right now, and it reached a peak last night. 393 rushing yards, 532 total yards for Ohio, and completely dismantling the Rockets. It wasn't even a contest. First quarter, Ohio was in the game. Toledo was in the game only because Ohio was making mistakes themselves. 3 fumbles on the night. You can't have it. You don't want to have those turnovers. Nate Rourke with a couple himself. Got to have better ball protection moving forward here, but he definitely made up for it in leading this team out in the second half of the game. An absolutely dominating play. 28-3 was the score from the third quarter on. Dorian Brown led the way with 17 rushes for 142 yards, 2 hittles for him. Nate Rourke also got in the action, got a touchdown. So did A.J. Ouellette, his 7th of the season. He's a yard shy of 900. That's pretty special for number 45 there. Had another great night with 72 yards on the ground for A.J. Ouellette. But the running game really was the story for Ohio. Toledo had no answer for what the Bobcats were able to do. At one point, 11 straight plays where they rushed the ball, and Toledo could not stop them. They ran right down the field, capped it off with a Dorian Brown touchdown. Special stuff for Ohio. Really set the tone for the rest of this MAC season. Facing Akron next week. Obviously, it's a do or die. You got to win if you're the Bobcats, but they positioned themselves very well. And if they didn't turn some heads on the national scene too, then I don't know what will for this Ohio team, because that was special.
Yeah, Toledo, like you said, receiving votes there in the national polls, the national top 25 polls. Something that was huge in this game is Ohio's defense. They held Toledo to 10 points, and that was in large part due to Quentin Poling, a huge game from Mr. Poling last night. Looked like a man on a mission. In my opinion, his best game as an Ohio Bobcat. 12 tackles, 3 sacks, 3 tackles for losses. I mean, Quentin Poling was feeling it last night.
Quentin Poling was on his game from the outset to the end of the game. He was clicking for Ohio. 3 sacks, as we mentioned. He got things started early on for the Bobcats, forced a turnover on Toledo's first possession of the game when they were threatening in the inside the 20-yard line, inside the red zone there. He really set the tone for the Ohio Bobcats. You talk about those records that he's set over the last couple weeks. Career solo tackles leader for Ohio, added, I think, 11 tackles on the night, 10, 11 tackles on the night, double-digit tackles for 12 tackles for Quentin Poling on the night, 3 sacks as well. That's big league.
It sure is.
For number 32, and he's getting looks for the NFL next year. This is that type of game that is a sort of career definer for Quentin Poling. He's kind of a culmination of everything he's done here at Ohio. And we talked about what Frank has said about Quentin Pulling over the last couple weeks. He's been very complimentary to this linebacker, somebody that's been in the fold for the last 4 years, somebody that's seen significant playing time over the course of his tenure here at Ohio. Really just a special player and somebody that's going to be very hard to replace next year.
It's starting to all come together for Ohio. This is one of the best wins of the Frank Solich era. You know, you talk to people around this team that cover this team, that are close with this team, and they really feel like this was a huge signature win and that things are starting to go well for the Bobcats, looking for their first MAC championship since 1968. But none of it will matter unless they can beat Akron next week. That is for sole control of first place in the MAC East. Shane, what does Ohio have to do to get it done against Akron?
More of the same. At this point, you don't have to change anything. You just beat the best team in the MAC, arguably the best team in the MAC. And that might actually belong to Ohio now. After that, they dethroned the Rockets. But you beat arguably the best team in the MAC entering this week in Toledo handedly. It wasn't even a contest, as we mentioned, from the second half on. I think Ohio needs to keep plugging the running game, keep ground control in their favor. They eat up clock better that way. Obviously, they extend those drives with those long rushes. There's 11 play rushing attempts for Ohio. So continue to plug on the ground. You're getting results there. All three rushers for Ohio, Nathan Rourke, A.J. Ouellette, and Dorian Brown, are carrying heavy payloads, but they seem very ample to take on those workloads. So I like what you're able to do with the running game. You've got three versatile backs. In David Burrows as well, who has come out and ripped off runs. We've seen this guy every time he gets in that kind of junk time, he makes something happen, and that's also something that doesn't fall flat on Frank Solich's face. There, he understands that David Burrows is eating time on the bench, and that he's really itching to get in, and when he does, he makes the most of it. So if they want to incorporate him in the offense at some point too, I would really be kind of keen to that idea, because I think that David Burrows is another back that could be a sort of featured player for Ohio, somebody that they could utilize in set packages and things of that nature. And he's looked really good as well. But the running game's great. Obviously, what the receivers have been able to do has been good this year as well. Poppy Way with 91 reception yards on the night to go along with 3 catches for him. Brendan Cope getting in the action too. Andrew Meyer having a couple nice catches as well. So the receivers are good. Keep the defense in check. They did a great job against the second highest scoring offense in the MAC in Toledo. Only gave up 10 points against a team that averages 39. So, more of the same from them. I think this team's on a mission, and I don't think that they're going to slow down anytime soon.
Great win this week, but cannot afford a letdown next week up there at InfoCision Stadium in Akron. Coming up next, we got the basketball preview, Ohio Sports Zone.
And welcome back into Ohio Sports Zone. Ethan, nice mustache.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I thought it was a caterpillar growing on your face earlier.
Nope, it's just facial hair, folks. Do not be alarmed.
Movember, we're supporting a great cause in conjunction with the hockey team. Check that out later on. But before you get there, let's go over to the convo really quick. Men's basketball getting started this weekend against Alabama A&M. A couple big losses for the Bobcats, a couple new additions. This lineup is going to be tested at times. What do you like from the Bobcats heading into this weekend? What's your kind of preseason preview for the fans at home?
Well, there's a lot of question marks at all the positions on the floor, particularly the backcourt. Obviously, losing Jerron Simmons is a huge blow to this team. Who will be the starting point guard? It's going to be Gavin Block to open this season. We traditionally see Gavin Block more of that 3 role, more of that forward role, but Gavin Block is a very responsible player, a consummate Bobcat, if you will, very responsible with the ball, a great leader. It's definitely comfortable with him starting the season in the backcourt. But as the season goes on, definitely expect to see freshmen Zach Butler and Tavion Kirk get some reps at the 1 position as well. And there's a lot of question marks at forward too. I know they have a couple guys banged up right now. Jason Carter's a game time decision for Saturday as we film this against Alabama A&M. Ben Vanderplas, AJ Guerreri, both having some injury problems at points this preseason. And Kevin Mickle, here's a guy who came in from Florida Gulf Coast, dropped 19 points in the opener, the exhibition opener against Capital. Kevin Mickle looks to be a skilled forward that can find his pedigree here at Ohio University. So definitely a lot of question marks as to who's going to be on the court, particularly at the guard and the forward positions.
Yeah, and you talk about those losses that Ohio is going to have to replace in the line of Jerron Simmons. gone to Michigan now. Kenny Kaminsky out for Ohio. Who kind of fills those roles for the Bobcats? Who's that kind of leader for Ohio that steps up and is able to put this team on the back and kind of take them all the way into MAC-land?
Well, I think if we're talking about leadership on this team, you have to start with Mike Laster. Mike Laster is a guard. We saw him in more of a six-man role last year for Ohio, coming in, scoring a significant amount of points, more than he's used to. More of a defensive guy, but we saw him start to develop a nice jump shot last year. Mike Laster is the only senior on this team, so in terms of leadership, it begins with Mike Laster. So I would look for him in a leadership role as the season continues, and there is a lot of question marks there too. Who's going to emerge as a leader? Mike Laster is kind of a lead by example type guy, not the most vocal thing, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that's another part, where I would expect someone new to emerge for Ohio in that part. I know Jordan Dardis has hit some big shots for Ohio here. He's going to be asked to step up, score a lot more points this year. Definitely look for Jordan Dardis to take a lot more shots. Someone who's not afraid to shoot that three.
Yeah, almost 13 points a game for him, 12.6 to be exact. An 88% shooter from the line there too. So that's a positive note for the Bobcats, creating offense there from number 35. We talk about Jason Carter last year, shot 50% from the floor, averaged almost 10 points a game. Somebody that is a big body down low, 6.5 rebounds a game. Is he the type of guy that is going to be a difference maker in the paint for Ohio, or are they going to be looking at more problems with size deficits, size disadvantages heading into MAC play and into non-conference play?
Well, I think Jason Carter is kind of like that stretch for it. Ohio doesn't really have a true center. Jason Carter has worked tirelessly on his jump shot this summer. Look for him to be expanding his range out to the three-point line. Jason Carter, they looked for more of him in a scoring role last year, especially when Antonio Campbell went down. But certainly, statistically, I look for him to improve in terms of rebounding, just because he's going to get more minutes. But also, Doug Taylor is a guy who's going to have to put up big rebounding numbers for Ohio. We've seen Doug Taylor a lot of the times get in foul trouble, struggle at times. He's going to have to step up big this year. Expect Ben Vanderplas, AJ Guerreri to see some time, if they see some time, to step up in the rebounding category. Sam Frere, James Golan also going to have to play crucial roles in the front court for Ohio.
What's your prognostication for Mr. Ellis Dozier?
Ellis Dozier is a guy, if he can stay healthy, I like him. He's one of those guys who's been banged up for Ohio in the past. He's good size, good length. We just haven't seen him on the court a lot for Ohio. That's really going to be the story this year for Ohio is, we're going to know right away who's going to get these minutes and who's, going to sit on the bench. Obviously Saul Phillips only was going 7 or 8 deep last year. We hope that changes, but expect a lot of guys to see a lot of minutes in the beginning in this non-conference play, a tough non-conference schedule that features Iona at Maryland, and they're going to Clemson to play a tournament, so a lot of tough non-conference games. Coach Saul Phillips has expressed frustration that MAC teams can't really get in as at-large bids. You have to win the MAC tournament, so that's kind of why he scheduled the way he did, and expect those guys to be quite honestly thrown in the fire at points this year.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting stuff to watch if you're an Ohio Bobcats fan, though. Those are some marquee matchups for the Bobcats, and some national exposure is going to go a long way for this program in the long haul. So I like what Saul had in mind there. Obviously, a couple injuries to some big men, and obviously the transfer of Jerron Simmons kind of, sullies that a little bit because you don't have the same talent you have on the court. But this is a new opportunity for some new players to get involved and to make a name for themselves. And you talk about Ohio last year, 20-11, failed to make the tournament. Obviously, Kent State went out from the MAC to represent. But what do you like in the MAC this year? Where do you think they fall among the rest of the competition?
I mean, there's a ton of unknowns. They were picked to finish third in the MAC East. Ohio is always competitive in basketball. I know they had Jim Christian that one year. That was a one down year. Saul Phillips' first year here was a down year, taking over for Jim Christian. But Saul Phillips has this program heading in the right direction. I know they just lost a ton of people this offseason, not just Jerron and Antonio, but Saul's a guy who can recruit. He's built this program up a little bit. They haven't had the postseason success that they've wanted, but I would not be surprised if this is an Ohio team that's right there in the thick of the MAC tournament, vying for that one bid. I mean, Western Michigan's getting better, Buffalo's getting better. There's no doubt there's a lot of competition at the top of the MAC, but I don't expect Ohio to struggle to the point where they're going to have to play, an away game to open the MAC tournament. I expect them to be one of those top 8 teams, get in. I expect them to finish in the middle or towards maybe the upper half of the Mid-American Conference.
Well, if there's one thing we learned about the MAC, it's that you never know what is going to happen.
Oh, for sure.
But when we look over to the other side of the court there with the women's team, they just had a matchup this past weekend against Walsh University. If you want to break that down for those who missed it.
Yeah, big win against Walsh. A lot of freshmen played, 82-66. They actually lost that game. Alexis Strover had 17 points and 3 threes for Ohio. Ohio loved the 3-ball last year. Definitely going to look to continue that. Erica Johnson had 16 rebounds, 4 points, 4 assists. Jasmine Weatherspoon was a huge rebounder for Ohio last year. Obviously, she graduated, so good to see Erica stepping up there. Bob Bolden stressed that these freshman players needed experience. That's why he played them the whole game. Only played 7 or 8 players. But they're bringing in High Point this weekend. High Point is a 15-15 team. Ohio blew them out last year on the road, a 76-48 win. So you hope that the success can continue this weekend for Ohio this Sunday in the Convo. Coming up next, more sports. It's Ohio Sports Zone. We are back here on Ohio Sports Zone. Ethan Graham, Rabbit Father, Shane Dazen. Shane, volleyball got a huge victory over Kent State, swept them tonight. What's going on with the volleyball team?
Volleyball team is looking pretty hot right now,
Yeah.
Ethan. I know we were talking about them kind of modeling around in the middle there, but they have heated up over their last 5 winners of 4 of their last 5 contests in MAC play. Has vaulted up them up into position to get a bye into the second round in the MAC tournament. Now sitting at 9-6 after a 3-0 sweep against Kent State tonight. Kent State, not a very good volleyball team, 5-20 entering the contest. The loss will knock them down to 5-21, but Ohio handed them that L by taking the first set 25-23, the second set by the same score, and then finishing it off with a 25-20 victory in the third set. We're still waiting for the stats on those games. So we'll be sure to follow up on those. But this comes after a weekend in which they split against Bowling Green and Miami, 2 of the best teams in the MAC. They won a 5-set thriller against Bowling Green to put the Falcons in a position right now where they're going to have to fight off the Red Hawks for that top seed. It looked to be all BGSU all the way, but Ohio putting a damper into the mix there and getting themselves involved as well, as we mentioned, getting up into that 4th seed. Tia Jimerson with 21 kills, 7 blocks, hit 556, led the way for the Bobcats with 2 service aces. Lizzie Stevens sets the program record in rally scoring era for most service aces in a single season, 55. Pretty special stuff there for the sophomore outside hitter as well there, Lizzie Stevens. So Ohio, like we mentioned, heating up right now, moving forward. They got a tough contest against Central Michigan. The Chippewas are 15-11. It will be senior night for the Bobcats. Allie Lake, the only senior on the team. We would like to congratulate Allie on a great career at Ohio, a great special 5-year career here. She's gone through a couple rough spots, a couple injuries, but she's overcome everything, and she's been a real example for how you overcome adversity for these Lady Bobcats. And right now, everything's clicking for Dean Webb and his unit, and they're looking to make some noise in this MAC tournament. We'll see what happens.
A couple of great individual performances there this season for the volleyball team. Moving from one sport to another that is played on a field, not on a court, and is outside. Soccer suffered a heartbreaking loss in the MAC tournament a couple weeks ago to Kent State. They lost 1-1 on penalty kicks. Shane, Toledo would go on to win the Mid-American Conference tournament. They'll be playing Wisconsin on November the 10th. I believe that is tomorrow as we film this.
That would be tomorrow, yes.
That would be, wow, days. How about that? Hannah Scafaria leads the Rockets in points with 12, and Sophie Pohl has done some great things with her feet this season in terms of assists for the Rockets. So good luck to Toledo there in the tournament. Hopefully they can represent the MAC.
Quick question for
Yes.
you. Quick question for you. How do you feel about penalty kicks deciding contests like that?
You know, we come from the sport of hockey, obviously, where they just integrated the shootout, and I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I think in the tournament, maybe you want to see them just continuously play, get that golden goal, as they call it in soccer. I think in the tournament, you got to let them continuously play. I think, you know, penalty kicks are kind of a skill thing and kind of a crapshoot at times, if you will. So I think in the tournament, you got to let them play until someone scores, but I think in the regular season, I don't really see an issue with penalty kicks. Penalty kicks very sneaky. Let's talk about some other sneaks. New segment here on Ohio Sports Zone. We have Mid-America Conference's Sneaks of the Weeks. Shane, who is a player who has flown under the radar that you want to tell our people about?
I'm going to go with another Ohio Bobcat hockey player here, a little partial to the Bobcats hockey team. We cover them, all their home games at Bird Arena, so I'm watching them often. And a guy that has really stood out to me this year, and somebody that I'm sure Coach Hogan also has a lot of admiration for, vaulting him up to the first line this past weekend, is Cody Black. Has yet to score, but with 12 career goals for Ohio heading into this year, he is definitely somebody to watch out for, playing first line minutes up there with Gabe Lampron and Garrett Elmore. That line produced 8 points together, and I'm sure that Coach Hogan is going to at least try them out again in Friday night's contest against Illinois. So I'm going with Cody Black, number 18, for the Bobcats. He's going to get his first goal. Maybe he might have a couple this weekend.
Yeah, the goals come in flurries for Bobcats when they do. Cody, been around that all year, has to find one here soon. My Mid-America Conference Sneak of the Week is Anthony Winbush. Now, this is not a surprise to you MAC fans who follow MAC football closely. The Ball State defensive end has 10.5 sacks and is near the top of the NCAA in a crowded MAC that has some of the best defensive ends in the country. Sutton Smith, Max Crosby, Joe Ostman, an interior lineman for the Central Michigan Chippewas. Definitely doing some good things in the defensive line in the MAC. But Anthony Winbush will sack you. He'll sack you, buddy. Number 1 in forced fumbles in the Mid-American Conference as well. Coming up next on Ohio Sports Zone, we got some hockey. Welcome back on Ohio Sports Zone. Ethan Graham and Shane Days. And Ohio University field hockey just wrapped up their season 4-12, but it was not without controversy. Ohio University field hockey head coach Neil McMillian has resigned from his position amidst a number of criticisms that include forcing players to swipe him into the dining hall, mistreatment of players on road trips, inconsistent coaching techniques, just a bad look for Neil McMillian. This is first reported by the Post. Just a bad end of the season. Hopefully they can find a new coach soon, Shane.
Yeah, they have not named a coach yet. We will keep you guys updated on the story as we obtain some more information right now. There's still a lot of things to be sorted through, and we will provide updates as we get them. But it is a very interesting development. I have read through a couple anonymous comments left on Marissa Fernandez's story on the Post about this, and there was one from a former player who pretty much corroborated everything that was alleged against him in the article, and it definitely makes you wonder about the sort of culture that was going on around there. Why nobody ever reported it before, if it was something that was kind of systemic from the last couple years onward, because this was a recent graduate, at least that's what she asserted herself to be.
Yeah.
So it is very interesting and something that we will keep you guys updated on.
Certainly hope that can be resolved sooner rather than later. But from field hockey to the ice hockey variety of Ohio, going on the road to Illinois this weekend. I know we just mentioned Cody Black. Who else is for Ohio? Should we keep an eye on this weekend?
Yeah, his line mate Gabe Lampron just completed a incredibly large weekend against Davenport. 2 goals and 2 assists for number 23. His first taste of the first line this year for Ohio. Coach Hogan not afraid to throw him on there after he has really become a reliable scorer for the Bobcats. A guy that was in and out of the lineup over the first couple seasons with the program. He is a junior now, and he is somebody that is playing every day, every week, if you will, for Coach Hogan, partly because of some lineup difficulties that they've had recently. Obviously, they lost a couple guys to injury. They lost a couple guys who decided to leave the program. And Gabe Lampron has really slotted in nicely in the third line, on the second line, and on the first line. He's gotten a taste of everything this year, and he has really produced with 6 goals on the season. He's somebody I definitely watch out for. Obviously, Garrett Elmore up top, as we mentioned before, also had a nice weekend. But you can't forget about Gianni Evangelesti. Number 7 is a weapon, especially on the power play where they plug him there at the top of the circle, middle of the circle, and just feed him there on the right side of the ice. He's going to get his shots and shoot and score.
Yep.
Gianni Evangelesti, fortunately for the Bobcats, is both of those. So he's somebody I'd also watch out for. Ohio's power play, 7 for 10 on the weekend against Davenport. They came in to that weekend series at under 10% on the year. Really got out of that hole in a big way against the Panthers. Hopefully they can continue that against the Fighting Illini.
Yeah, Illinois, the third ranked team according to the latest ACHA poll. This is the beginning of CSCHL play for the Bobcats. That's their divisional play. How important are these wins, especially in division?
Yeah, beginning of play too, to really start off with some momentum in the CSCHL, a notoriously tight division full of really, really great hockey teams that always seem to represent the ACHA in the national tournament championship game. The CSCHL has great representation there. You're looking at dogs like Lindenwood. You're looking at guys like the Fighting Illini who are going to be tough outs for Ohio. As we mentioned, the number 3 team in the country, going to be no slouch. Ohio's going to have to come out hot, have that good, fast start that we saw them come out with this weekend, getting on the board early. Nick Gross, his first 2 collegiate goals, he really was a difference maker for Ohio, and he set the tone in the first period in both nights' contests against the Panthers. I really like what he's able to do on that top pairing with Jake Houston. I think them in front of Jimmy Thomas, somebody who has been a brick wall in net for the Bobcats, 60 of 64 saves last weekend, 2 more wins, his 12th straight start for Ohio, and he's not going to leave the net anytime soon. They've got 7 straight weeks of competition that is ranked in the top 25 in the ACHA. So they are going to have their work cut out for them. It all begins this weekend against the Fighting Illini.
You know, something that Bobcats head coach Sean Hogan spoke about after Saturday night's win against Davenport on our broadcast was that how at times it looks like everyone can beat them being Ohio University, and at times it looks like no one can beat them. Is this inconsistency problem for Ohio? Is that something that bothers you moving forward here in the second half of the season, getting closer to tournament time?
I don't think so. I think it's funny because when we go to practice and we watch them in practice, obviously practice is practice and the game is a completely different story, but they look very sloppy in practice. They don't look like they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's. But when they get into the game, everything becomes so much more fluid. We saw that power play with those quick passes and setting up those shots, those one-time opportunities in the slot. Those are lethal plays, and those are plays that only the Bobcats can execute. You look at other ACHA teams, they're very skilled, but nobody does it quite like Ohio. I think that the Bobcats are well-positioned moving forward. The inconsistencies are to be expected. We've seen, like as we mentioned, a couple lineup changes that have forced guys into some new situations, but as you adapt and as you gain that confidence with those big wins against teams like Davenport, and if you're able to get it done against the Fighting Illini, that is going to be a huge momentum builder for Coach Hogan's unit. A team that went to the national championship game last year, they're looking to get it done this year. I think they're on a mission.
Bobcats on the road this weekend at Illinois. We will not have the call for you, unfortunately, but hopefully those Cats bring back a pair of victories. For everyone here in Ohio Sports Zone, for Shane Days and I am Ethan Graham, thank you for watching. We will see you next week.